Welcome to Season 2 of the Leopard Podcast. This season, I speak with visionary lodge owners operating in Africa's most remote and pristine regions. Get ready for tales of deep commitment to conservation, extraordinary wildlife, and the dedication it takes to run a lodge at the edge of the world. Keith Rose Innes, welcome to the podcast. I'm so excited to be speaking to you today because I was recently on your beautiful property on Alphonse Island with Blue Safari Seychelles. I went with my husband, which I suppose made it even more fun to be there. And we had the most amazing time. It's just such a spectacular destination in the middle of the Indian Ocean. Just like you can't imagine a better paradise than that. And I have to say, because I'd heard so much about Blue Safari Seychelles before I arrived, from many people in the industry and people who'd been there, I had very high expectations. And when my husband and I landed on the island, we were just so blown away. I think it exceeded my very, very high expectations. So I'm super excited to be speaking to you today about this beautiful place. And can we start by telling the listeners the story of how Alphonse Island started, when it started, and how it's going today, how it's changed?
Yeah, okay. So obviously Alphonse Island, we didn't start Alphonse Island. It's always been there from a positioning point of view. In the early 2000s, so 1999, 2000, the hotel was built. It was obviously run by a separate organization. There's been a few since us. But in 2012, we visited Alphonse Island and we really fell in love with it. Myself and Murrary Collins, my partner in the business. And we set about sort of figuring out how to bring this to the community, in the sense that, protect it a little bit more, work on sort of more rejuvenating sort of scenarios to try and improve things rather than obviously because human pressure had been there, and then obviously improve the facilities and so forth and make it more susceptible and inviting to couples and families. When we bought it in 2012, it was only a fishing lodge. It was only welcoming 12 to 14 anglers per week for about 35 weeks of the year. And, with the Blue Safari brand and offering, Murray's and my vision has always been to, get it to include everybody in the sense that, anybody who would like to come and see the outer islands, we can take care of them in a very comfortable and sustainable way. And that's where we're at the moment. We've obviously redeveloped the island in a sustainable way. We've, in a sense, taken off the varnish. And what we've done is we've put in solar, built a beautiful big farm, and obviously imposed our conservation oriented ethos on the operations and on the island. We're the only operator on Alphonse Island. It is an exclusive island to one operator, hotel operator. So it is really unique. Alphonse Island is really unique in the sense that everybody on the island either works for us or indirectly works for us.
Yeah, my husband and I had no idea it was such a famous fishing spot when we arrived. We came for the diving and the other things, the leisure activities. And when we arrived on the island and saw it full of fishermen, I'll tell a story a bit later about that, but we were amazed that it's actually so famous for fishing and we'd come for leisure. So there's these two aspects of what you do with Blue Safaris, which is fascinating. But before we get to the fishing part, perhaps you can explain a little bit more about the different islands, because you've got Alphonse, which is the more accessible and main island in the group of islands, and then you've got Cosmoledo and Astove. Am I right? And can you explain a little bit about the differences between these spots?
Yeah, so we've got various destinations. Some destinations we don't put into the Blue Safari portfolio, so we focus those mostly at just fly fishing, purely because of either the lay of the land, i.e., what is on the atolls, whether it's conducive to leisure, or just because of the infrastructure we have there. We don't believe it's comfortable enough for our guests. But in the Blue Safari portfolio, we've got Cosmoledo, which is it's about 120 nautical miles north of Madagascar. So it's a long way from Mahe. It's a 2-hour flight from Mahe, so it's a 1-hour flight from Alphonse Island. It comprises of 20 islands, and we've built a small eco lodge on one of the points on the biggest island, which is called Wizard Island. And what we do is we invite leisure guests or ecotourism guests and fly fishing people to the island for 30 weeks of the year. And it's a small, really sort of small setup that doesn't impose on the environment in the sense that it can all be taken away. We've refurbished containers. And we've put them on the beach, and we've put, nice little tents over them. So they're really, really comfortable. It feels like you're camping on the sand, but at the same time, we can remove them if we need to move on, or if we would like to put something else there. So it really is, Cosmoledo is known as the seabird capital of the Indian Ocean. It's got the biggest population of seabirds, up to 2 million pairs of sooties, nested throughout the southeast. And then we also have all the other species like red-footed boobies, brown boobies, and a few others. And then we obviously also have all the tropic birds, the red-tailed tropic bird, white-tailed tropic birds, and all the other frigates and all the others. So it really is a place that's frozen in time. From a fly fishing perspective, it's known as the GT capital of the world. So there's a lot of giant trevally that swim around the water as if, it was 100 years ago. So it really is a unique place. Once you've been blown away by what's above water, you put your head below water and you understand exactly what's underneath these. Obviously, beautiful coral areas, massive amounts of fish, and it's all held in a atoll. So it's an atoll. So an atoll is a lagoon surrounded by islands and reef and flats. So there's two entrances into the lagoon. And then you're surrounded by islands and flats and beautiful white sands. It's made famous back in the days when Jacques Cousteau went there and he filmed the portion of the Silent World where he dived on the wall. Now, the beautiful thing about the Stove is the sheer drop-offs. So you can walk off the edge and you'll walk off the edge of the beach and out onto the flat, and within 100 meters you have a sheer drop-off that goes down to about 1,000 meters. So it's an incredible snorkeling spot, along the edge. Perspective is one of the best you'll ever experience. And there we've got a small coral lodge, which was built originally by the Vivas Cotter family in the 60s when they were farming the island. The gentleman who was in charge of the family, or the main man in the family per se, the main farmer, he had a abscess. And he went to Kenya and died in the seat. Obviously, the family tried to continue, working the island, and eventually gave up and was left. And we went back there, I think it was 7 years ago, or 8 years ago, and with a joint venture with IDC, took all the dilapidated buildings and refurbished them, and now we have a 6-bedroom fly fishing and ecotourism lodge.
Amazing. I mean, you've painted a beautiful picture there, Keith, of the birding that's available, the beautiful snorkeling in Astove. What can guests expect to experience both above and below the water in Alphonse? What are some of the highlight activities for them on Alphonse Island?
So although Alphonse is closer to these atolls, the more remote atolls, easier to get to in a sense, it is frozen in time because there's no civilization around two of the atolls in the group. So we have Alphonse, and then there's two other little atolls, one really big atoll and one small atoll in close proximity within 10 minutes ride with a boat. It's Bijoutier and St. Francois. Now, St. Francois is a massive lagoon made up of white sand and little coral fingers and so forth, and it's never been inhabited. And then Bijoutier is a very close island atoll close to it, which has also never been inhabited. So, although you're staying in a big lodge or resort, if you like to call it that, it really is close to untouched nature. And all the obviously the areas which surround these islands is also untouched in the sense that the coral is amazing. We've got Seychelles is well known for its large species of fish which frequent the waters. So you've got, lots of big sharks, you've got manta rays, you've got in the southeast, you've got whales, you've got a lot of dolphins, and obviously you've got a lot of grouper species, Napoleons, all the big stuff, which is obviously swimming around in the waters. There's no commercial fishery in the area. There's nothing that's done in a way to deplete the population of marine creatures. And we have significant scientific research and programs and ranger programs on the go at all times to make sure that these places are preserved.
Just to go back to my story about fly fishing before we move on, my husband and I, as I said, we didn't expect fly fishing when we arrived on the island. We'd come prepared for diving. I just got my PADI license. I just learned how to dive. And that's what we were excited for. And we met some guests on the island, passionate fishermen, and you were actually on the island at the same time as me. So we met there, and you offered us a fly fishing lesson with a guide. And this guide was James, and he was so passionate about fly fishing that he converted us on the spot. We had the one lesson on how to do saltwater fly fishing, which I believe is quite different from freshwater. And we went out to St. Francois Atoll the next day, and I caught my first bonefish, and it was just an absolutely incredible experience and so much different from what we'd expected. And speaking to the guests on the island, they said that your sustainable fly fishing practices, like using barbless hooks and only catching fish on a catch and release basis, has meant that Alphonse is like one of the best fly fishing destinations in the world, with huge populations of bonefish and GTs and all these other fabulous fish that people come for. What made you decide to go this route, and how do you keep it sustainable?
So we obviously listen to the science. So we've got scientists on location, and they do all their research and monitoring, and then they'll actually feed back the information to us. Over the years, we've obviously learned. We've been on Alphonse now for 13 years. We monitor all the fish catches and so forth, and we've reduced the amount of fishing pressure we put on the destination. So when we took it over, there were 14 people on the St. Francois flats per day. And we've reduced that to 10 people all the time, and then obviously we added another 2 from time to time for on location sales. Now, the most important thing is that, obviously, these islands are expensive to run. So there needs to be some kind of way of earning revenue in order to make it possible. So if you just relied on ecotourism, or you just relied on leisure, it wouldn't work. So the 3 parties work together: leisure, ecotourism, and fly fishing work really well together. Alphonse is a destination which isn't a fly fishing focused destination, although it is one of the main reasons why people do go there. It is a destination which is really unique from a marine perspective, in the sense that there's so many different activities. We've tailor-made all these activities, a lot of them which you can't get anywhere else. And we focus on these activities to entice people to the island, because the experiences that you have there are something that you won't experience anywhere else. And fly fishing just happens to be one of those. And yes, in the beginning, before I had the means to be in the situation that we're at, we own leases and we own hotels, we own lodges, I was just a fly fishing guide. So I experienced these places without any development on them. And walking around fly fishing, yes, that's an amazing thing, but it's everything else that makes these destinations so amazing. You're walking around, you're seeing sharks, you're seeing rays. When you're snorkeling, you're seeing manta rays, you're seeing dolphins. And it's those amazing experiences that I've always thought, we really want to show the rest of the world what it is that Seychelles has, from a marine diversity perspective and from a frozen in time perspective. You can come to Alphonse and you can lie on the beach and you can swim around the pool and you'll have the best time ever, because we've got all of that. We've got 5-star villas, we got beautiful bungalows, we got we're an incredible family of staff who make you feel as if you are a family. It's one of those places where you really leave feeling like, you spent your money in the right place because it's sustainable, and we donate a considerable amount of money back into conservation. But also you had a great time. You feel rested, you feel like you've learned something. And it's just one of those places that, a lot of people joke. They say it's a one in a lifetime annual trip. So yeah, once you've come, you'll understand. And one of the major problems we have is obviously we try and sell the experience to people. The Alphonse experience, the Blue Safari experience, and no one really believes what the sales pitch is. But once you get out to Alphonse, you understand, and you realize that we actually undersell it.
Absolutely. Anyone who goes there, their expectations will be exceeded. We stayed for a week, and we loved doing activities, and so I felt like I could have spent 2 weeks and not got bored. And the unique range of activities that you've got there is, I think, what sets you apart. We did a night snorkel. I didn't even know you could snorkel on the house reef at night. And the bioluminescence of the coral, the purple, it just shined purple. Just a really incredible experience. Sharks, I thought I might be scared of seeing sharks when diving there. It was just a great experience. My first experience diving, to see all these big marine life, as you're saying, sharks, turtles, hundreds of turtles. Just fabulous turtle conservation going on there. And so much to do. Cycling around the island, farm tours, cocktail hour, conservation talks. There's really endless activities to keep people busy. But for you and your family, you were there with your family when I saw you. What would be your perfect day on Alphonse Island?
So I'm an early riser, so I like to get up nice and early and either go for a sup. Alphonse is surrounded by shallow flats before you get to the surf zone areas. On a certain tide or on a higher tide, you can paddle in waist deep water all the way around the island if you like. And situated on that flat, that's what it's called. It's called a flat of either white sand or turtle grass, is all the turtles and all the fish. So you have a bird's eye view of all these turtles, triggerfish, GTs, sharks, rays swimming around the island. That's my perfect start of the day. Then obviously a nice leisurely breakfast. And then, there's so many other activities to choose from. One of my most favorite activities is to go and snorkel with sailfish. So it's an event where you jump on the boat and then the team will take you out just behind the back line, and they'll put a spread of hookless teasers and they'll tease the excited sailfish into the back of the boat, and you jump in the water and swim with the sailfish for a couple seconds. And it really is an amazing experience, and they'll continue to bring them to the boat through various teasing methods, or just jump on a skiff and run into St. Francois and ride around looking for the manta rays, jumping in the water and swimming with them, snorkeling with them, or even doing a manta ray activity experience where you go out and then you find the manta rays and you snorkel around them, then go and then snorkel underneath them and take a photograph of their belly. Obviously, all mantas are uniquely marked. So if it's not one that's been named already, you can name it. Now, all the other marine life that you'll see on route to these experiences, like dolphins, yellowfin tuna jumping in the southeast Wales. It's incredible. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's around the next corner.
Yeah, those spinner dolphins are amazing. I just love them, like how they swim alongside the boat. There's just so many great experiences to talk about. And I think people should go with an open mind, because depending on the season and what's there, it's like a normal safari. You can't guarantee anything, and you got to be open-minded to what you'll experience. We talked a little bit about conservation, but I'd like to speak a little bit more about the conservation aspect of Blue Safari Seychelles, Keith, because I know you and Murray put a lot of time and effort into conservation. It's really important to you. It's close to your heart, and you've got a full-time team that works just looking at conservation on the Alphonse group of islands. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about why it's important to you and how they can get involved?
So any destination we get involved with, the first thing we do is we make sure there's proper conservation. And we'll never get involved there unless we believe we can make an improvement. So the first step is obviously, we need a framework to protect these places. So some of the islands already have foundations that are set up, or if it's never had an operation there, we'll set up a foundation. In that foundation, we have the support of ICS, which is the Island Conservation Society, and then IDC, which is the Island Development Company, which is a arm of the government, and then we have the foundation and ourselves as stakeholders. And as a group, we will then sort of earmark the funds which we raise as stakeholders as to what scientific and conservation work we want to do. Now, all the conservation work is done through an independent, which is ICS, Island Conservation Society. They do all the science, they do all the monitoring, so that it's an independent opinion. So we don't dictate as to how we want things to operate in the islands. They dictate to us, and we listen, and we make sure that it's sustainable. So it really is a nice sort of group of organizations that work together to protect these atolls. And what we do is, in order to fundraise, we obviously we fundraise ourselves through auctions and various other ways, and we have wonderful guests who donate and so forth. But we also have a conservation donation, which each person gives on a nightly basis, which is $30 per person per night at the moment, and that then goes to the foundation, and then is decided by the parties as to how those funds are spent from a conservation and monitoring and scientific perspective. We then in order to do all the science and stuff, we use partners throughout the world, specialists in their fields, and we get it done. We have a lot of scientific work going on at any one time. So it really is a great collaboration, and it is a collaboration which protects these atolls in a big way.
I think when I was there, they were the team was doing some shark tagging to do some research on sharks, which was incredible. There's also, I did a cool farm tour. You have an actual farm on Alphonse Island, which I was really amazed to see. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think the guide said you produce something like 2 tons of fresh fruit and vegetables a month. I could be wrong, but it was something that really shocked me. It was a large amount of fruit and vegetables that are farmed here on Alphonse, and they are consumed by guests on Alphonse and your other islands where you have large operations. Can you tell us tell listeners a little bit more about this farming project, because it's really fascinating.
So the farming project, it's always been on Alphonse, but from a smaller scale. 3 years ago, we decided to upscale significantly. Currently, we produce up to 5 ton of fruit and vegetables per month. The reason why is we want to focus on carbon footprint. So obviously, if we're growing all the heavy fruits and vegetables on the island, it means that there's less that we have to fly in from a fresh produce perspective. It also, it also makes the experience a lot nicer for the guests. Fresh produce. We even reintroduced honeybees. So we have honeybees on the island. So we grow as much as we can. From a farming perspective. So the ethos of Blue Safari is to impose as little as possible on natural environment. We believe it's better for us to utilize what we have in the area from a fish perspective as well. So what we do is we fish offshore, away from the reef, in deep water, in areas which aren't on spawning aggregations, in areas where we believe there's excess population of fish. And we fish in a sustainable way, which is hand line, line. And we catch the fish for the kitchen. We don't believe in buying fish from anywhere else where we don't know where that fish has come from and how it's been caught, whether it's a drag net across the ocean floor or a Pasay net or whatever it is. We believe in doing it in a sustainable way and rotating the fishing spots. And then, all these little practices add to the quality of the cuisine. 90% of our fruit and vegetable would be grown on Alphonse and eaten there as well. And then, obviously the fish is all caught there fresh as well. So, it's a model which is working for us, from all perspectives, but we believe it is really sustainable.
And the sashimi is amazing. Like, I've never tasted such fresh and delicious fish as we did there, and all the food, just absolutely delicious. Okay, so before you go, Keith, my last question is, what do you hope that guests traveling to Alphonse will take away when they leave the island? A feeling, an idea, anything, something that you think they should take away from the experience?
It's an experience that I believe that you can only experience on Alphonse Island. There's so much to offer. But, the most important thing is that take away that the fact that you've come to this beautiful place, you experienced all these different activities, you've learned how sort of fragile our ecosystem is. And that's obviously one of the stories we will, share with you. But at the end of the day, by coming to these destinations, you're protecting them, because a lot of the revenue goes towards protecting them from, as I said, from a conservation perspective. But also our presence there protects them. If we weren't there, it would be harvested in a different way. Inevitably, the Seychelles people need to earn money from the islands. So this model which we have is the most sustainable way of protecting these atolls. And, it'll be amazing for you to come and experience it and think when you left Alphonse that you've made a contribution to protecting this place so that our kids and your grandchildren and whoever else can come in 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years time and experience exactly the same. Obviously, global warming is a concern. It's a massive concern that, if the seawater temperatures go up by, I think it's either 1 or 2%, we end up with 80 to 90% of our coral reefs bleached. So if you had to leave Alphonse after your experience, I'd love for you to take away, how fragile these ecosystems are and how we can make a positive impact by obviously focusing on global warming and so forth. And just, loving the island, loving what's there and enjoying everything that's to offer.
Well, Keith, I hope we've given our listeners many, many reasons to come and visit Alphonse, for the positive impact they'll have, for how much they're just going to enjoy themselves and have the most amazing holiday of their lives. If they want to find out more, what is the best place for them to get in touch, or which website should they go and visit to find out more?
If you go online and you Google Blue Safari Seychelles, you'll land in the right place. All our staff are really friendly and will walk you through all the steps of what you can experience at any one of the Blue Safari destinations or in Alphonse.
Thanks so much for your time today, Keith.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening. Leopard specializes in curating extraordinary journeys. Get in touch with us to help you plan the trip of your dreams.